Hadrosaurs were some of the most successful groups of animals ever to roam this planet. Stretching from continent to continent, these duckbills came in all sorts of shapes and sizes, many of which adorned with the most baffling and bizarre pieces of headwear in the animal kingdom. Hadrosaurs themselves have taught us a great deal about dinosaur biology, with several skeletons and even fossilized mummies giving us a chance to put flesh on the bones of these long extinct creatures. Literally. One of the most prominent hadrosaurs discovered was Corythosaurus. With its characteristic helmet-shaped crest, Corythosaurus is one of the most recognizable of the hadrosaurs, and definitely one of the most significant, revealing a great deal about hadrosaur biology, including what they actually looked like in life, with the first specimen being discovered having preserved skin impressions, giving us a much clearer look into the life of these animals. As such, it was only a matter of time that Corythosaurus would be a candidate for the Jurassic Park roster. However, despite its significance in the fossil record, Corythosaurus remains quite mysterious in the franchise due to its lack of screen time. Like, extreme lack of screen time. Like, holy crap. So today, we will be unraveling the puzzle of the InGen Corythosaurus, and see if the Jurassic Park scientists really did bring this dinosaur back from the grave. Without further ado, let's get started. So, quick backstory. Not long after Jurassic Park's failure in the early 90s, the genetics company InGen would experience rotten luck once again, as the Tyrannosaurus of theirs got free and terrorized San Diego after they introduced it to the mainland. As a result, the Gene Guard Act was introduced to prevent this incident from happening again, ensuring that the dinosaurs cloned by InGen would be given the rights of other endangered species while maintaining Isla Sorna as a natural preserve. At the same time, it also made further cloning of dinosaurs illegal. Not long after, InGen was bought by Masrani Global, who was interested in their own dinosaur cloning projects like Jurassic World. And after pulling a few legal strings, InGen scientists were back at it again cloning new dinosaurs in the late 90s, wasting little time in creating new creatures like Spinosaurus and Ceratosaurus, while completing unfinished assets from Jurassic Park like Ankylosaurus, and of course, Corythosaurus, with the latter already having 90% of its genome complete at the time. However, for unknown reasons, these animals would be released into Isla Sorna, where they would intermingle with the island's fauna. Which brings us to Corythosaurus' first and only appearance in the franchise so far. During the events of Jurassic Park 3, Dr. Grant and the Kirbys had the misfortune to encounter a velociraptor in an abandoned lab. As the main cast fled from the raptors, they stumbled upon a mixed herd of Parasaurolophus and Corythosaurus, and in an attempt to escape, ran into the herd and caused the Hadrosaurus to subsequently panic and stampede, allowing the survivors to escape into the forest, at least for the most part. This is the only time we see the animals on screen, and it is currently unknown if any Corythosaurus were transported to Jurassic World, if any more were cloned, or simply fell back into extinction. So, with that lore in mind, let's figure out what the InGen Corythosaurus was exactly. And to do that, we'll need to look at what the real Corythosaurus was for a point of reference. Corythosaurus is a large hadrosaur dinosaur from the late Cretaceous period that lived approximately 76 million years ago. It possessed a large helmet-like crest on the top of its head, which it used as a resonant chamber to create a wide range of sounds. This species of duck-billed dinosaur is one of the most well-known dinosaurs in the fossil record, thanks to several fairly complete and well-preserved specimens. And we have a very good idea of how this animal actually looked, grew, and even sounded. And for the most part, the Jurassic Park clones don't differ far from this image. Like the original animal, the Jurassic Park Corythosaurus bears the characteristic crest on the top of their heads. The crest shape varies between the two species, but based on the ovular, Corinthian-esque shape of the clone's crest, we can infer that this species is Corythosaurus casuarius. But you might ask yourself, what is this crest for exactly? Well, that's certainly a question that scientists have been asking themselves when studying these animals. This mystery has been even more intriguing when you consider the fact that Corythosaurus wasn't the only hadrosaur with this adaptation, but in fact, a whole group of duckbills with headdresses. You see, Corythosaurus belonged to a group of duckbills called lambeosaurs, with each species having their own unique crest. Fortunately, the question of lambeosaur crests is one of the few fossil mysteries that we actually have a solid answer for. Studies for the crests of duckbills go as far back as the 20th century, revealing that some of these crests weren't just fancy growths, but extensions of the nasal bones. What's more, these crests were full of nasal passages, allowing for a steady flow of air, and when testing to see how this airflow worked, came the remarkable discovery of what these dinosaurs sounded like. It was found that the nasal passages in these crests acted as resonant chambers, allowing duckbills like Corythosaurus to make a wide range of low-frequency sounds, making loud, echoing honks and trumpets that could be heard for miles across the Cretaceous landscapes, with each hadrosaur's unique crest making their own unique sounds. These distinct calls were likely for communication, creating a wide range of sounds to signal and relate to other Corythosaurus, be it signaling for danger or socializing amongst themselves. The same can be said for the Jurassic Park clones. Like the originals, they also used their crests as resonant chambers, creating their own booming bellows and trumpets. In this case, the clones released a distress call when spooked, letting each other know of possible impending danger, and the herd of duckbills began to scatter in response. Corythosaurus' crest isn't the only thing inherited by the clones, but their similarities do seem to be skin deep, literally. We have an idea of what Corythosaurus looked like on the outside, thanks to the original specimen preserving a fantastic skin impression of the animal. And surprisingly enough, the clones seem to share the same skin integument, possessing small interlocking tuberculate scales across their bodies. Despite these similarities the Jurassic Park clones have with the real animals, the cloning process has caused some alterations in the Jurassic Park assets. The clones were born with several distinct differences from their ancestors. The overall body shape, for example, is fairly different from the original animal, with the clones having much lankier proportions, including a skinnier neck, scrawny forelimbs, and an overall much lighter build, at least in comparison to the actual Corythosaurus, which was fairly robust to say the least. However, these adaptations aren't without their benefits, including a speed boost. You see, despite their size, hadrosaurs were fairly well adapted for running, and were pretty fast by large dinosaur standards. This is thanks to their highly adapted hind legs, which were able to generate the power needed to make these duckbills well-oiled running machines. This speciality is thanks to a muscle called the cauda femoralis, a type of muscle found in practically any animal that has a tail. But what makes hadrosaurs like Corythosaurus so special is that their cauda femoralis is fairly expanded, in particular, expanded downwards. This expansion downwards allows hadrosaurs greater endurance when running, allowing them to run greater distances with the necessary leverage to power on through, albeit at the cost of shorter and slower strides. However, the InGen Cories seem to have taken this to the next step, having become obligate bipeds, or animals that primarily walk on two legs, with the resulting adaptations being longer legs in proportion to its body, and having more developed leg muscles, giving it a greater stride while maintaining the specialized muscle, allowing them to not only run longer, but faster. And given that what animals they were coexisting with, this adaptation in the clones kept them one step ahead, literally. However, this lightweight build comes at a cost: durability. You see, contrary to popular belief, hadrosaurs were far from defenseless. While they did lack horns, spikes, or club tails, that doesn't mean they couldn't defend themselves. After all, a horse doesn't have obvious defenses and doesn't have to look scary to put people in a hospital. These animals were fairly large and in many cases being the largest animals in their ecosystem. In fact, the largest non-sauropod land animal ever was a hadrosaur called Shantungosaurus, a duckbill that could grow a whopping 50 feet in length. That's larger than the average T-Rex. And as any predator knows, size is extremely dangerous. Hadrosaurs could easily utilize their sheer bulk to repel an attack from predators. At least adults were safe from most predators, so long as they weren't of similar size. In addition, these animals packed powerful beaks, hoofed front feet, and powerful hind legs, meaning these animals can deliver a nasty bite, and they can definitely kick your shit in. Essentially, close quarters with a hadrosaur is essentially a combination of getting attacked by a goose and a horse, simultaneously. And if you've seen how often these animals wake up and think peace was never an option, then you know what you're in for. While most media depict duckbills as harmless, in reality, if a raptor decided to attack a duckbill back in the Cretaceous, it would have been absolutely demolished. And hadrosaurs weren't lightweights either. We have fossils of them surviving all sorts of trauma. From surviving bites to the back from large predators, to surviving trees falling on them, to even as recently where we have evidence of an Edmontosaurus surviving a Tyrannosaurus biting its face. Hadrosaurs were no joke. The Jurassic Park Corythosaurus had other ways of avoiding danger, herding being the biggest. Herding is a key behavior in the InGen Corythosaurus, something consistent with hadrosaur behavior in the fossil record. However, an even more remarkable trait is who the Corythosaurus choose to herd with. You see, Corythosaurus chose to herd with not only themselves, but seemed to prefer the company of other herbivores. In particular, another type of hadrosaur, Parasaurolophus. Like Corythosaurus, Parasaurolophus is a lambeosaur with its own tuba-shaped crest. What's more, based on what we see in Jurassic Park 3, it seems that the Corythosaurus and Parasaurolophus have mixed herding. This appears to be a form of mutualism. Mutualism is the instance where two organisms coexist and benefit from the coexistence with each other. In the case of the InGen's duckbills, the benefits of such a relationship appear to be a greater safety. By herding with the Parasaurolophus, Corythosaurus has the luxury of an early warning system. Thanks to each species of hadrosaur having distinct calls, both from sounds made with their crests and how they vary upon situation, it provides a ready alert system for potential dangers. Modern birds utilize a similar concept, listening and learning each other's calls in order to be aware of the environment around them. The Corythosaurus and Parasaurolophus herding together might be more than just coincidence. If anything, it's incredible considering that the two animals were once neighbors. The two species cloned by InGen, Corythosaurus casuarius and Parasaurolophus walkeri, have both been discovered in what is now the Dinosaur Park Formation in Canada, living at the same time and place 76 million years ago. With this knowledge in mind, it's possible that this urge to be close to one another likely stems from instinct, not just the urge to herd, but something even deeper: genetic memory. Genetic memory is an instinct rooted deep into a species or population's genetic code. While it isn't a memory in the literal sense, it's an instinct ingrained so deeply in an organism's DNA that they inherit it from their ancestors. One such example is our fear of the dark. These behaviors stem from our ancestors being surrounded by constant dangers, from being bitten by venomous snakes, or being taken in the dark by other predators, such as leopards or saber-toothed cats. Over the generations, the fear became instinctual. Just take that in for a second. Snakes and big cats traumatized our ancestors so much that we literally have genetic PTSD. That said, genetic memory isn't limited to natural enemies, but natural allies as well. Domesticated dogs are an excellent example. Dogs being man's best friend isn't just a common phrase, but it's actually something far more scientific than people realize. Dogs actually have it set in their DNA to see us as companions thanks to generations of companionship and selective breeding by humans. Furthermore, it's a trait unique to our dogs. while it's a trait absent in wolves. Based on this idea, it seems that the Jurassic Park Corythosaurus share a mutualistic bond with their former neighbors, due to having an ingrained comfort with Parasaurolophus. In a way, it's almost as if, after millions of years, these old friends have found each other again. Now, isn't that just sweet? But that's gonna be all for today. Let me know in the comments what creatures you would like me to cover next. They can be Jurassic Park, from another movie, or just some other weird creature or character out there. That said, hope you random ladies and gents enjoyed this video, and have a random day.